And then the worst part, I only saw that video 6 hours later.
Nisha blogged that outside.
And no one told me until my friend called me and said, Bianca, do you know that you're trending? I'm trending about what? At you, let me send you the link. I don't even want to tell you, you're going to feel bad. Kubotamba kubopeza banitukwana ndiona pa ya maibako ndiwe sataniki ndiwe chani ine kudabwe ati muntu ndiye mwamene ali uyu mkashana uyu namchosa kukabwene namuleta kuno kunyumba 1 month sana lipirepo rent Anita nangwanga nkale apanga chite testify kubwa kunisebanya kunikopera mnyumba muli empty. And if there's one
really
thing
bad.
that I always worry about is my confidence. That really fucked up my self-esteem. I can't lie to you.
Hello there and welcome to yet another exciting episode. This is Titandala, the podcast. I'm your host. My name is Charlie. Thank you so much for joining me for yet another one. And this time around, I'm so excited for my guest, man. She is talented singer, songwriter. She's beautiful and she made it to the show. Scarlett, how you doing?
Hello, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for asking me.
Yeah. We've been meaning to have this interview for a while.
Like 2 months.
Yeah. It finally happened.
Yeah.
Pretty excited. Your album's doing amazing stuff.
Yeah, I'm having a good time watching this.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's quite amazing.
Thank you.
I'm going to get into how you came up with all of it and just what was the idea behind it and the team. But for starters, I know a lot of people, myself inclusive, I don't know how I'm meeting you for the first time. Mm-hmm. Where were you born and raised?
So I'm a Lusaka product. Mm-hmm. I was born here, UTH.
Yeah.
Monday, the 6th of July, 1987 at about a little bit after 10 p.m.
You have all those details.
My mother is like, she doesn't forget. So
yeah? She shared all that with you. I wish my mom would share with you. I think I'll ask her.
I was born in Lusaka, raised in Lusaka. I only left Lusaka for 2 years to do secondary school in Kitwe. Mm-hmm. I went to Pelembe and then I came back because I was ill. And then on and off I would spend time because my mom was a diplomat, so she left Zambia for a little bit. Okay. And so for maybe on and off for about 6 years, I was partly in Windhoek, Namibia, and here. Yeah. So for the most part, I'm a Lusaka baby.
Ah, okay, I see. And growing up in Lusaka, there's only 1 or 2 schools you'd have attended. Which schools did you attend?
I went in Kwazi.
Are you a soft kid?
I went in Kwazi, yes.
Government
proud
schools.
in Kwazi alumni.
I see. That's great. Was music always part of your dreams, even the time that you're in school? Like, I want to do this.
No.
At what point does the music bag bite you? And you go like, hey, you know what?
I wanted to be a lawyer, funny enough.
And you'd make a good one by that.
Actually, no, because I actually went to law school. Okay. So I wanted to be a lawyer when I was a kid. For the longest time, because
Anybody a lawyer in your family?
Yes, my dad and my sister.
I see that.
But they did that after me. So, my dad started and then me and then my little sister. My little sister is brilliant. So
is it?
Yeah, I think I was dreaming on her behalf.
Yeah.
So I think I must have been about 11 or so because we grew up in a very musical household. My dad played guitar. My mom sings, or she used to sing.
Brilliant voice, I must
Yeah, my mom's got a really pretty voice. And so my mother, there was music in the house. My mom was the loud one who would be singing. Even now, she's like so annoying. Yeah. But my dad used to play a lot of music in the house. And so I grew up with music in my head.
Yeah.
And
what type of music would you listen to,
ambiance.
like, say, on a Saturday morning?
My father was very into smooth jazz. So my dad's a jazz fanatic. So anything jazz from, like, it doesn't matter what era, he probably knows the artist and he can tell you some of the history. And he had an amazing record collection. So my dad was that guy. And then he also did a lot of, like, old school gospel. So the Hawkins family and Andre Crouch.
Explains why you're so brilliant.
Yeah. So my musical soundscape in terms of, like, as a kid, what I was surrounded by was very rich, very technical music. It wasn't pop ever because we weren't really allowed to listen to most things. So if we had a thing in our house like, oh, you're listening to bad songs, I'm going to tell mommy,
no bad songs in the house.
No bad songs in the house. So that was really like what I grew up listening to. And I think you can still see traits of that in the music that I make.
Absolutely.
Because it's what comes naturally to me. And it's still what I listen to, if I'm being honest. I think when I was maybe like 11, I used to watch a lot of TBN. and I became obsessed with choirs.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that was when the bug bit. But in my mind, I was not a singer.
There was that show on TBN. What was that? The kids show? The teens? Whatever. What did I used to call it?
There was Kobe's Clubhouse.
Ah, yeah, that was my favorite. That was my favorite.
Yeah, wow. That's like ages ago.
Ages, man.
Yeah, so I think that's when the bug bit. But in my mind, I wanted to be a choir conductor. So I wanted to be like a choir director.
Yeah.
And that used to be like a thing that I had in my head. Like one day, I've decided I'm going to actually do it.
Were you like the type of sister that would round up your siblings and say,
No. Music was just for me. Up to now, it's still just for me.
For real?
Yeah.
Yeah. At what point does your dad or your mom find out like this is what you want to do?
The singing only happened when I was 22. Mm-hmm. And so my mom came to visit and came to where I was staying. Because when my parents left, I went to live with my grandmother. So she came to my grandma's house. And I said, do you want to come hear my songs? And she was like, yeah, okay.
You know, like...
Cool, let's go.
Yeah.
So we go. And we played a song that James had written called Buisa. And my mom had never heard me sing like on a recording before.
Yeah.
She'd heard me sing in church. So she knew, oh yeah, she can sing, but like it's not a thing.
Let's listen to a record
So
now.
they play her this song and she's like, is that you? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. And she's like, okay, if this is what you want to do, I'll help you. So that was like 2010.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been me and my mom ever since.
Yeah, so supportive, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say. I first bumped into your first album 2015.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, 2015. And I listened to it, I was like, the first thing that came to me is like, why are people not appreciating music like this? Because it was absolutely amazing. It stands out.
Thank you.
It's not in the crowd, it stands out and it's amazing. And all of it is just like, it's local. I'm like, what do you think people didn't appreciate your first album like that much?
I don't think
you didn't push it?
No. I don't think people didn't appreciate it at all.
Yeah?
I don't think that at all. I had... no, I would never say that people didn't appreciate it.
Yeah.
They did.
Is it?
They did. And to this day, people still are like, do you still have copies? I want to get it. And people know the songs.
Yeah.
And people came to all the shows. So there is I would never ever say that people didn't appreciate it.
Was successful.
I loved how impactful it was. And for me, that's what success is with music. It's fair and fine, yes. Let's talk about it from a business angle. It's correct to say that numbers and the money that rolls in from your project
that's where I was going, actually.
Is what makes it successful. And I can't say that I didn't make any money.
No, you did, obviously.
I can't say that. But for me, what made that album successful to me is the impact that it had and the fact that 9 years, 10 years,
down
11
line,
years later, people still sing those songs.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, it's lasted a decade. And people will still talk about Monisungile Banja and Nipempa and My Kind of Cute.
There was a lot of
and there were songs on there. There are some songs that people didn't even know were mine that are on there.
You know what my favorite is?
Which one?
Nikakuona.
Nikakuona's not on the album, actually.
It was a single?
It was a single.
Goodness me.
But that's the thing with my songs.
Oh, yeah?
I don't feel like people don't appreciate them because people still love them even when they're like 5-7 years old. And so for me, I don't have anything negative to say about like that project shocked me because I didn't think it was going to do that well.
Amazing.
And it did. And the platforms that I ended up on because of that music, I could not have imagined it any better than how it worked out.
Yeah.
How many people can say that the first time there was a big show that had Hugh Masekela, they played. I played. How many people can say that they played 3 times on the same stage that Mikasa played?
Yeah.
I played. How many people can say that they did Earl Clue's gig? I was there. And so I can't, I did so many things. Kenny Lattimore. I did so many things of that music because people appreciated that music. So I do not.
So it's not about the numbers, it's the impact.
And I got numbers. Every copy that I had sold. So I can't say that people didn't appreciate it. They absolutely did. And to this day, it still shocks me that this little kid that nobody liked at school, because I was really just like the most unpopular person ever in life.
A pretty kid there. Everybody wants to hang around
ugly.
With. Nah, you lie.
I wish I could send you pictures. I was so horrible looking, and I had like 2 friends, and I still have those friends.
Would you believe that she was ugly in school? That's what she said.
So ugly.
I don't know.
I was terrible looking, and I only had 2 friends, and the friends that I had are still my friends up to this day, and. To think that I went from being that little awkward kid, and I'm still super awkward, but to come out and have so many people love what I made, for me, I'll never take that for granted, like, ever. I remember, like, doing the Zahara. I remember doing that gig and coming out, and someone saw my dress, and people started screaming because they wanted to hear Munisungile Banja. And that was just such, like, those moments, to me, no one can come tell me that people didn't appreciate my music. They did. They do.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
I think you're an amazing human being, not an awkward one. Put it like that.
My sister watched this and she'd be like, oh, you were laughing too much.
She's so critical, eh? Should be a lawyer.
Proper. Yeah. She is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You make you make timeless music. What are some of the elements that makes music? Because I know there's some music that we listen to 3 months down the line, we trash it, on to the next one.
Yeah.
But you have this thing where you make your music timeless. Like right now, we're talking about your album. This is like 10 years or so after.
Yeah.
You know, what are some of the elements that you feel make a great timeless piece?
The spirit behind the song. So I'll give you an example of one of my absolute favorite Zambian artists, Exile.
Yeah.
All of Exile's songs to this day are bangers.
Ah, yes.
It doesn't matter how old
Plays
they
at
are.
the club, you'll be like, yeah.
It doesn't matter how, exactly, and it doesn't matter how old they are. And I think for me, the most important lesson that I would take from what Exile Israel creates is that the spirit behind his music is always bright. Like, it's genuine and it's authentic and it's bright. So when he writes a song like Kumvela Nimvela, like, that's something that's an authentic experience that so many people have had, and that is so relatable, and there's nothing fake about it. For me, in my own experience, the songs which I made that I couldn't relate to myself because they were just songs that I was writing about a particular subject that I didn't identify with, no one likes them. They don't get any hits. But the songs that I make that are to do with, like, personal experience or experience of someone that I've experienced by second hand being around the situation, things that are actually real and that have genuinely touched me. When I make a song about that, for example, Nikakuona was a personal song.
Is it?
Yeah. And so when I make a song about those things, those are the songs that people end up picking up and taking as their own.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like that's what the difference is. Munisungile Banja is probably the most significant song that I ever made.
Yeah.
I just sang that song. It was not written by me. It was not written about me. And it was written for someone that I very dearly loved, who was going through that situation. And I was just like, I feel so bad because you can see how overwhelmed this person is. So making the song was for her, was a gift to her. And it was genuinely from the bottom of my heart. And look what it did. And I think that's the difference. When you make songs that come from those places, those are the songs that last. And you can pick them out from every single artist that's out here. Songs that made it were the songs that people felt something about. And that's what music does. If you can't feel it, it doesn't go anywhere. So if the artist is making music that people can feel, and I always like to say this sometimes, like on my pages, like, I'm trying to give you something you can feel, is because if someone can feel any kind of emotion that they identify with in a product that you've made, that allows them to take ownership of it, because it's like, this is about me.
That's powerful.
And those are the songs that last forever.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Actually, it takes me to the next question I was even about to ask. Like, what's a creative process? Do you just wake up, you get a sound? Do you want to listen to a beat, or you have waiting for an inspirational, you know? Yeah. Take us through your creative process.
People love asking me this question. I don't have a creative process, if I'm being honest. And I've always said this, God writes for me. The songs just come.
Yeah.
And then when they come, some of them take ages. There's a song I'm working on now, which is the first song on my next project. And it's really, like, just so elusive. So I have the chorus. Yesterday I got the first verse. And then I got the end of the song, but I don't have a second verse. And then I woke up this morning and I can't remember the verse progression. So that happens sometimes. Like, where the song is sort of like coming and going. And then you have other songs like Look to You, which currently seems to be the most popular one on my new album. And Look to You came to me when I was, like, deep in depression. And it took about 3 days to kind of happen. So I woke up in the morning and the chorus was just ringing in my head, and it kept going. And then the words came, and I kept arguing with myself, like, this doesn't make any sense because I'm just repeating the same thing over and over. And it was almost like, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. And 3 days later, I had this full song. And up to now, every time I play it, like yesterday I played it in rehearsal and people got emotional. And I'm like, guys, we're rehearsing. Can we calm down?
For real?
Yeah. So there's that. And then there are other songs which come like boom. It's just I wake up and I'm like there's a song on my project now called What You Say. I wrote that song while I was cooking. Like it just came on a day when I was super happy. So I don't have a process which I can say, oh, I sit down and this is what I do and I go into seclusion or whatever. I don't. I am going to, for the second project, I am going to fast while writing it though, because I feel like I need to really connect with what I'm trying to say. And so when I finally start to sit down with it, I'm going to fast either the writing process or the recording process. Yeah, I'm just going to be like in that space. But I don't have a process for how I create music. It comes to me like some songs come while I'm sleeping. Like they just come and then it's like, okay, those are the pieces. And I'm like, okay. And then so I don't have a process. It's almost like it's just given to me.
Do you listen to other Zambian artists?
I do.
Why
I was listening to Joy on the way here.
Yeah.
Pompey and Magnus from the Bwana album.
Yeah.
The Joy song. Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Why I asked that is that, do you sometimes listen to a Zambian song and say, I should have done it like that? But then you're surprised that people just love it. No. You just be like, you did what you did and it's so good. Because I think as a creative, you're in a space where you can tell to say, you know what, I should have gone a little notch higher. It could have been
with
better.
With my own songs, yes, but I would never listen to another person's song, especially from here. I don't really have. There are no musicians here that I listen to and feel like, oh, I should try that.
Yeah, you're not inspired by Zambian music.
No. I am.
Yeah,
but I'm not creatively directed by it.
Ooh, I see.
Yeah, it doesn't move me in that way. I listen to it because I'm like, oh, this is my jam. Like, I listen to it as a consumer. So for me, I have Zambian songs that I absolutely love that are just Zambian songs that I love because they're so dope. Okay, so currently, Toxic. Bobby East. The second one would be Salma's. Salma, it's not out, but Salma's new album has a song on there called Eweso.
Oh yeah,
it's a Nigerian song. Like she took like Nigerian influence and she has a Nigerian feature there. Yeah, it's such a dope song. Like,
can't wait to listen to her album.
It's such a wonderful song. I love that song, and I heard it at her listening party. So for me, that's staying on my list, even though it's not out.
Yeah, so it just stuck with you like that.
There, yeah. And then this Osatilelo. The Pompey and Mag song. Yes, Kontolola.
Yeah, yes. Those guys make great.
Yeah, so those are like right together, now off the top of my head, it's those three that I'm feeling. I have another one. Oh, Cleo's EXO.
It's dope.
Yeah, but they're
quite old, but it's
old, yeah, but they're songs. And like there's lots of songs that I really, really just love, and I love them as a listener, as a music listener, but as an artist, there's nobody that I'm sitting around thinking, I should make something like that. No, but I would want to remake all of Pompey's originals. His first, the Mijou album. I would cover all of them.
And that would be dope.
I would love to cover them.
And that would be absolutely dope.
Yeah, I always tell him, like, you should write for me, and then, like, just write what you wrote for yourself, and then give it to me, and then I'll interpret it. And you'd be like,
I think that would be a project I'd look out for.
Yeah, so I love how Pompey writes. And so working with him was also really cool. Yeah. Doing the Wait and Pray song. But that's probably the only artist that I feel like I would like pinch from. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but everyone else, I just think they make beautiful stuff that's good for the way that they sound.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit what I do.
I see. And looking at how you have transitions in the industry, you had quite a big break. Like you had a gap year, not a gap year, but
I had a gap half decade.
Gap
5 years. 5 years of
What happened? We missed you. What happened?
So my thing was I do struggle with, well, I will not claim it now because I'm fine now. But I have suffered from mental health issues. And so that struggle with my mental health would present in different ways. I think maybe even from when I was way younger. Yep. But at the point that I got to like 2015, there was a lot of stuff that happened like in my personal and public life that was very difficult for me to cope with, and I kind of had a mental breakdown. And so out of that, I told myself, I don't think I want to sing. I think music is toxic for me.
Is it?
So yeah, and so
you're
that's
thrown
how I
in
stopped.
the towel, literally.
Yeah, I was like, I'm done. I don't think this is for me. I think it was a matter of positioning at the time because I don't believe that I was doing what I was meant to do.
Yeah.
And so that's probably why it was so difficult, because when you're not cut out for something and you put yourself in that situation, you won't do well because it's not what you're cut out for. So everyone has their purpose in this life and everyone has their place, and I was just in the wrong place at that time. And so I felt like, no, I don't want to do this. It's taken 5 years for me to figure out what my place was. And then say, okay, I can pick this up again. But in the 5 years, I honestly just was like, I don't want to sing.
Wow.
And there was complete silence, so I couldn't even sing. I had injured myself going into the last Stanbic Jazz Festival that I did, which was the last one they did at the Misty. I was suffering from a tear in my throat. And so I had bleeding and a lot of like very bad pain and inflammation in there. And I actually did that show on steroids. Like I had to take pills before going live. Coming out of that, I was like, this is a sign that this isn't for me and I'm just not going to do it. And so I walked away from it. And I'm one of those people, like I joke about this all the time. Like, oh my God, I'm such a quitter. Because if something is too rough, I'm just like, I don't think I'm going to run. Like, I'm a runner, I'm a track star.
And talking about the subject of mental health, it's something that a lot of people actually try to avoid, or some people have it, but they just don't identify with it. How did you manage to first identify to say, this is a problem that I really have to deal with? And eventually, how did you manage the situation and come out of it?
So, 2016, I think I was like having a really rough time just with everything. I told a friend of mine about it. His name is Alinani, and he said, listen, I know a doctor. This might sound weird, but maybe you want to like go and have a conversation with this guy. So I said, okay, cool, let's go. So he picked me up and he took me and he paid for the consultation. And I went there twice. And the diagnosis was that I had a condition that is referred to as a major depressive disorder. And mine was episodic, so it would come back like at different times of the year. And so he put me on medication for that. And I was on medication for about 6-7 months.
Maybe just to explain that, what does that do though?
So what it is when people say, oh, this person is depressed, so it's like clinical depression. So that's what it was. But with me, it would be very, very extreme, and it would go all the way to like having like anxiety attacks, nightmares, insomnia. Like it would affect my appetite. It would affect even just my physical health. Like I would get heart palpitations, migraines, like all of that stuff, and like be sick. And so I started taking the medication, and I took it I actually stopped taking it when my grandmother died in 2018. So I feel as though in that moment, it was sort of like a wake-up call to say, you need to figure out what this is. And so I started now looking for other ways to cope.
Right.
The medicine made me very, very, very sick, like physically sick. So now I'm like catch-22. If I don't take the medicine, I'm mentally ill. If I take the medicine, I'm physically ill. So now what do we do? So I came across a Japanese system, which is termed 5S for us, which is it's like the principle of continuous improvement, so Kaizen. And what it is you sort of like sort, systemize, and like there's these 5 S's that you follow to clean up your work environment or your working processes. And I thought, this is really interesting because I can apply this to my mind. And so that's what I started using. Which was, if I feel a certain way, I take sort. And to sort is to say, sit down and sit with the feelings and like dissect them and put them in their correct place. And so that sort, stores, and like that's what it was. And so I would do that with my feelings. And that's how I got off the meds. So it worked for a while because I would use that all the time. I still use it now. Like if I'm having a moment, I step back from it. I'm like, what is this? What is this about? Why do I feel this way? Is it real? Is it fake? And then you kind of separate that, because for me, I realized that in my version of depression, and I say that because a lot of people have a different experience of what depression is, right? So I don't apply a blanket approach to like any of it, because what your depressed looks like would not be what my depressed looks like. And it doesn't invalidate the fact that you are depressed if you're depressed. It's just different. And so I always say in my version, because for me, what happened with me was different from the next person. You see, so I will sit with the feeling. And a lot of times what it was there was a combination of the truth and like a conflagration of what the truth was. So making it bigger than it actually is. And then it seems like I can't deal with it because it's so bad. So actually sitting down and saying what is true and what is fake. And this would happen. Like, I'll give you a basic example of like having an argument with your girlfriend and they say it's triggered me, right? So I was triggered. And what was the trigger? Oh, we were in the moment and this person said this. And then I was triggered. And how did you behave after you were triggered? I felt this. I felt that I had a panic attack. So now it's like, okay, what did the person actually say? So I had to do that, like where I'd be like, what did the person actually say? What did they mean? And literally say, this was where the full stop was. Everything else that you added to it that made you now start spiraling is what you added to it. So starting to like separate that so that I can calm myself down. Yeah, so that's
quite a complex technique, but I think it's effective.
It is, but that's how I managed to stop taking the medication. Because like I was like, this first of all, it made me like a zombie. I would go and I'd be on radio and I'd be like dozing and I'd completely lose gaps of time. And I was at Power at the time. So I get off and Patrick is like, what happened between this time and this time?
And you can't
when
remember,
the song
literally.
came on, you were not saying anything. And I'm like, I don't remember. But they realized something was wrong, so they didn't fire me. Thank you, Power FM. But after that, I was like, okay, no, I need to do something.
Yeah.
So that's what I used at first. And that kind of worked for maybe like a year and a half. And then I started going to therapy. So I started going to therapy in 2019. And I was on therapy 2019, 2020. And at the end of 2020, I managed to get down from going 3 times a week to going like once a month. And I haven't been this year because I've managed to manage myself. So that's why I say like, I do have mental health issues. Like I've struggled with my mental health in the past, but I don't claim it because I've managed to like overcome what that was. And I now have created an ingrained, like I've internalized the coping mechanisms that I need to use to keep myself in a sensible place. Yeah. So,
you know, my thing is, I feel a lot of people, like what happened to you, the first step was to identify, to say, this is a problem.
Yeah, like I don't feel good.
You know, like for most of the people, they just take it like, this is how I feel, this is how I, like, how does somebody identify to say, this could be a problem that could be so severe and action needs to be taken now?
You can actually Google symptoms, which I don't recommend.
Google always give you like all these things.
You know, like I think that we all know when we don't feel like ourselves. Most of the times, and I say this as like a mental health awareness advocate. We don't create safe spaces for each other to talk about when we don't feel okay.
Yeah, makes sense.
Especially guys, like that's even a bigger sphere.
For men it's different.
You guys don't sit down and say, "Wait, apa."
Things are not things.
I don't feel like me. You know what I mean? And then terms that are bandied around, crazy, insane. This person is schizo. This person is psycho. This person is, you know, he's bipolar. You are not a doctor to call somebody bipolar. We don't create safe spaces to have the conversations that need to be had around, I don't feel like myself. Right? And I think that's the beginning of the issue. If you follow on from there, it's very difficult to be in a situation where you say to someone, I think I'm depressed, and the person says to you, yeah, just ungrateful, or this is making me anxious, stop being childish, just breathe. There are so many things that we say that make spaces unsafe for people to actually speak up and say, I don't feel like I'm okay, something is wrong. I have friends who are so understanding of who I am as a person. They hold space for me. And so I can go to any of them at any given time and be like, I need to talk to you. I don't feel good. And they'll be like, okay, cool. Let's go through it one thing at a time. And once we get to the bottom of it, you've gotten that little support that can lead you to a conversation where maybe your friend will say, do you maybe think you want to go in? And then I'll call my therapist and say, I don't feel good. Can I come? You see? But people don't have safe spaces to have these conversations. So it's difficult to know whether you're just being a sissy or something is really wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's where it begins from. Also, just being honest with yourself. Like, if you don't feel good, you don't feel good. And again, if there's no safe space for you to take those feelings, to ask someone, like, what do you think? Or I got really scared yesterday. I had a nightmare and I woke up and I was hyperventilating. You don't know that you're hyperventilating. You're just like, I don't know what it was. People who suffer from sleep paralysis, which is continuous, and don't realize that that's because they're stressed and something's wrong in the head because they're stressed. So they need to cope with their stress. Otherwise, their sleep is being affected. All of those things. There are no safe spaces to have those conversations. If I say to you, yesterday, boy, I had this dream. It's like someone was choking me. Nichivanda, or you've got demons. You should go to church. You said, I mean, when in actual fact, you should have the conversation and be like, are you okay? And like, I don't think I'm okay. Why? What's going on? No, work, this. Maybe you're stressed. Maybe you need to take a break. We don't have those conversations. Like in general, we don't have those conversations. With me, I have these conversations with everybody in my life because I know how helpful they were for me. So when someone says to me, this is what's going on, I hold space for them because they need to be able to be safe enough to say, okay, I'm going to start crying now because I don't know what's happening and I'm really, really scared. And if you have friends or family that can make you comfortable enough for you to say that, then when something like that happens, I'll easily just say to my friend, like, okay, I'll go with you and I'll call the shrink for you, or the therapist. I don't like using the word shrink. I'll call the therapist for you and we'll go and, like, we'll set something up because you're not okay. So we don't have enough safe space to have conversations around how we feel as people. And that, I think, is the beginning of the problem because from there, it's very difficult if you haven't been open about it to get treated because you haven't said anything.
To be quite honest, it's a lot of people that are going through the same and just don't identify with it, but it keeps on,
happening.
Keeps on happening to them. On to the good stuff then. All the great performances you've had with all the iconic legends. Which one stands out for you? The one when you sit down and just say, you know what? That was quite an experience.
So best performance? Kenny Lattimore. Opening for Kenny Lattimore, best performance.
How does the invitation get to you, though?
Smooth IK, man. That's my guy. So he was just like, there's no way I'm doing this gig and you're not here. You need to be here. And I was like, okay, great. Because I was like very much ZNBC. And he's like the entertainment guy. So he's literally just like always been in my corner. So when they got that show, he called and he was like, look, I don't care what we need to do to get you here, but you need to do this because this is a huge platform and, you get to do something that other people have not done. It's the first time this man is coming to Zambia, so come. And so for me, I'm very big on relationships. I've kept the relationships that I had from then till now. And so that call, innocent Kalaluka.
You just got to get up and go. Just got to get up.
Show up. And I showed up and he was like, you did a good job.
Amazing stuff. That's great.
So I think best performance for me in terms of how much work we put into it and how well we did on the stage. That was the best one because we really worked hard with that. I think for me, biggest event, like where I went to do the event and I couldn't believe that I was there, will always be Zahara because that was packed.
That was a killer event.
Apart from the national anthem, which I just did, I've never sang to that many people before. So going in there and singing and people singing along was mind-blowing. The other one, which I think for me will always be my standout performance forever, because it was the first time that it ever happened, was I headlined the Blantyre Arts Festival. And the second night we went up and there was a school that had come to... they were from the area. So I think they were from Lilongwe and they came to Blantyre, or they were from Blantyre, but I can't remember where the school was from. But it was a school for orphans. And they had all these kids and they said, well, it's a treat for them as they close the term for them to come and do this field trip and come and watch the show. So they watched my set. And it was packed and it had rained and it was really nice. Like, it was a really cool gig.
Amazing.
But we had done a set where there were all these, Bob Marley covers in there and people knew the song. So the crowd was like going because they were like, oh, these are songs that we know. And then we get to the end, and I'm like, we're going to do this one song before we leave. And this song is called When I See You in Nyanja. And so I explained what the song was, and we're singing Nikakona. And these kids, when we started doing the hi, hey, ho, they started singing it back.
Wow.
And they literally were my backing vocalists the whole song.
Amazing.
It was just... Afterwards, they said, where are these children from? And then the director of the school came and explained. And I was like... And she said to me... The last time we saw a show here where someone performed at this level of like professionalism with what you guys have come and done here and how coordinated you were was Salif Keita.
Ooh,
that was
huge.
such a huge compliment for me. And so I was like, what? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm just a kid from Zambia, like, thank you. And she's like, really? Like, yeah. So after that, they would email. And I think for me, that was a very, I'll never forget that show because we had such a rough time getting there and getting back.
Yeah.
And we got robbed when we just reached Lilongwe. Like when we just got off the bus, we got robbed. And so my drummer lost his sticks, he lost his money, like everything.
Bad experience, eh?
It was not
but
a
ended
cool...
up great.
Yeah, and then we get there and like where we were sleeping was tricky and it was just that we didn't get paid much for doing the gig. So going up under those circumstances and saying, okay, we're going to switch all that off and we're going to do a good show. And we did the show. And I think that's probably one of the best shows that I did with the band. And so those three, I think, stand out for me because of how much work we put in and also just the response. And so I think like top three would be definitely Blantyre, the Kenny Lattimore show, and the Zahara one.
Yeah. Talking about the inauguration ceremony, did you at any point when you were actually typing that tweet think the president was going to reply to you?
No.
At all? Like, it's just like, oh, let me try it.
No, I was just... I say a lot of really silly things on Twitter and I've stopped doing that now because I
No, you
realized
shouldn't, because look at what
I
happened.
stop now because I'm like, oh, people are actually paying attention to this.
Yeah.
So I posted that tweet like, I wasn't even shooting my shot. It was literally just me like, guys, tell him I want to sing, you know?
Yeah.
Because everyone was kind of having that conversation. We're all
With
excited
him all the
and
time,
stuff.
yeah.
And then I get the response and it's like, oh, you're actually going to do it. And it was not real to me until we got there and we were dealing with like the army.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, so the national anthem is part of the parade. We don't know what we're going to do here because you can't be in the parade.
Yeah.
Or like, and then the people I was with were like, oh, no, they're going to say no. And I was like, until they say no,
it's still
we're
going
doing
on.
it. And then they didn't say no and we did it. And so like...
And it was amazing.
That was such a beautiful day.
And you know what added to the whole thing is that that was quite an emotional day for everybody.
Yeah, it was.
And just seeing you on stage there and just seeing... Like, this came from a tweet, actually, and it's happening.
Like, anything is possible now.
It gave everybody new hope to say, you know what, but that was amazing performance. Yeah. That was an amazing performance. Standing really on that stage and seeing all those people, what was going through your mind?
So the first stanza, I was really thinking about all the technical glitches because there was lots of madness happening on the stage. And I'm thinking, I can't hear. And like, it's just sounding so terrible because you're getting the feedback back. And you can actually hear it because when you roll it back, some clips the sound was fine, but in some clips you can hear that I couldn't hear, so I was singing a bit lower than I was supposed to be singing. And so I'm trying to like control the situation. And then when we got to the Praise Be to God, I think I looked up and I was like, this is actually happening. And I think that's the point where there's a picture of me, like, I just randomly, like, smiled. Because, like, it hit me, like, you're really here, and he's really over there. And you're really doing this. Amazing. And that was, like...
That's a great moment.
Yeah.
Great moment.
Until I have a child, I don't think I have a moment that tops that day.
I see. Probably got a lot of money, too.
No. It was not a paid gig at all. No.
But you actually had a great time doing it. Yeah,
I did. It was a really good experience, and it's never been done before. I love to be the first person to do things.
Yeah. So amazing stuff. You have a gig coming up?
I do.
Yeah, so, tell us a bit more about that.
Next Saturday, actually, 11th December. 11th December. I'm playing my first gig in 6 years at Alliance Francaise.
Yeah.
And I'm playing with a completely new ensemble. So it's a band that I haven't used in this order before. I've only worked with the MD in this case. So I like to make my keyboard player my MD at all times. And I've had the same MD for 10 years.
Is it?
Yes, but now my MD is Sampa the Great's MD.
Ooh, that's going to be
so
fire.
If me and Sampa have a gig on the same day, he's going with Sampa.
You see now. That's another thing.
Yeah, so he's ditched me. He's going with Sampa, and his name is Lazarus.
Yeah.
So my new MD is called Mapalo.
Yeah.
And Mapalo is running the band now. So this is a completely different team that I'm working with. I have a female bass player named Shimo, and Benchi's playing drums, and Joshua's on guitars, and then I'm pulling Mwila back in.
Yes.
So it's a brand new ensemble for the most part. But I've worked with Mapalo before.
Yeah.
I actually went to Malawi with Mapalo. So it's one of those things where I'm really excited to be doing it on a completely clean slate. I'm not going to sing any of the old songs. So I'm literally coming out and I'm performing the album, and I'm telling you the whole story about how the album came to be, and like what is behind the songs and the experience.
Amazing.
Yeah, and just like singing the songs live, which is my favorite way to do things.
Yeah.
And so I am very excited to be doing this again. I wasn't sure that it would take. So when I said, okay, let's try and do a show in December, I'd been pushing it back.
Yeah.
I said, let's try and do a show in December. I've been pushing it back from July, actually. I wanted to do a show before the album came out. And I said, okay, fine. So we're finally going to do it. And everyone was like, okay, I will do it. And then I just woke up one day and I was like, if I don't do this now, I'm not going to do it. So I started running around and putting the whole thing together. And 2 weeks ago, it just like all of a sudden, like just people just woke up and they were like, oh, yeah, we're totally coming to that.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited because the numbers already are looking like really good, and it's going to be a good crowd.
Absolutely.
And so I'm excited to have people come and see me sing, some who've never seen me before, and some of the old gang who used to come to all the shows. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm going to be doing this from a very authentic place of like being up there and being vulnerable and saying like, this was my journey to get here.
Yeah.
And this is how I'm finding my way, because that's what the album is about.
Yeah.
And so I'm really excited for people to come and hear the music.
It's going to be fire.
It's
gonna
so
be there.
crazy. Like the songs, yes,
there.
you are. The songs are so good. Like they're, and I don't say this because they're mine. I say it because I feel like there's so much that comes out of being genuinely in a place where like this is who I really am and this is what I'm really dealing with.
Yeah.
And I really want to share that with someone who might be in the same space and needs to hear this so that they feel like they're not by themselves.
Exactly. And I need everybody coming for that show to feel like what you just said right now.
So I want people to come up and like feel the music and be like, I totally identify with this, and maybe cry a little bit.
Yeah. We're not going to get into that crying stuff, but I'm sure it's going to be absolutely amazing, because I think
I'm stoked.
You stuffed us for a long time, so yeah, it's going to be amazing. Really going to be amazing.
Like yesterday, I was in rehearsal and I was singing one of the songs. Like, this song is so hard to sing. So singing it, I'm like, okay, like, let me just try and control it. So we sing the song and we go all the way to the end. And my friend, who's been singing backing vocals for me for like 10 years, looks at me and says, I forgot. And I said, you forgot what? And she says, I forgot how good you are. And I was like, I forgot too, man. So I'm excited. 2021, I think, has been a good year for me. And I say that taking into account all of the rough stuff that happened, because I think I've grown a lot this year.
Yeah.
And I also found a different side of myself that I didn't realize was there. And it's like, oh, okay, I really like you, you know? So peeled back another layer. And I think also just, it's the 1 year that I can honestly say that I committed to doing something and I saw it all the way through to the end.
Amazing.
And so this year, I think, has been one of the best I've had in a very long time.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I think in hindsight, also, I think
2020 was actually really good for me too.
Is it, eh?
Yeah.
I think 2021 has been really great. I voted and,
my
vote
that
counted.
Was the best part.
Oh, my vote
counted. That was amazing.
Still proud of myself up to today.
Yeah, the best part.
Absolutely amazing.
Best part.
So listen, in closing, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
So I'm making legacy music now. And I want to leave two things. Musically, I want to leave music that becomes the music that 50 years from now people sing in their churches.
Amazing.
That's my goal in life. And secondly, as a person, I want to be the thing that comes into the room and makes it different. It doesn't matter what room it is. But if I'm in the room, I shouldn't leave it the way I found it. And people should always be like, when she was here. So for me, that's what I've tried to do, even in my job. And I think that I am successfully starting to look back and see a trail of things where I can say, I didn't leave people, things, or places the way I found them. I left them better.
Yeah.
And so that's really just what I want to do. Like, it's just to make the world around me more beautiful just by being here.
Yeah. You're such an amazing person, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And keep shining.
Thank you so much for having me. This was fun.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we close. It's been Charlie. Until next week, it's bye for now.